Under some theories, using a knife against an unarmed attacker could be considered escalation of force. Yeah, but if you're a bodega worker in like a city and a young man like enters your space clearly with intent to rob, you know how many people rob with like weapons, right? Like I feel like if somebody's stepping into the bodega thing to fuck you up and they shove you to the ground, there's a very reasonable chance they have a weapon. You know, like that. It's not like you two are like bar fighting or whatever. Like there's a huge like if you're at a bar and somebody shoves you, you can't like pull out a gun and shoot them, obviously, because that's like lethal force when not justified. But in this case, they've hemmed him in. He's much bigger. He's stronger. He's young. He's robbing him. And like it's pretty reasonable to assume he's got a weapon on him. Like that's not. And what's more, even if he doesn't have a weapon on him, this guy's so much younger and stronger. There's a decent chance that he could just kill him with his hands. Like, well, you can always kill someone with your hands, but I mean, like, I think it's a reasonable thing to consider, you know? Just imagine being old and being, like, weak and your joints hurt and, like, your back hurts, and then some guy who's physically, like, way above you, and, like, breaks into your bodega thing and, like, shoves you to the ground, and you're thinking, like, oh, no, I'll just fight back with my hands. You know, like, kills you, you know? In New Jersey, a burglar can sue you if they injure themselves while burglarizing your house. Lol, that's nice. That's great. That's very clearly an escalation. What the f is Vaush talking about? Just because someone's robbing you doesn't give you cause to murder them. Dude, he's not just robbing the bodega. He didn't just like grab a Kit Kat and run out. He went behind and shoved this guy to the ground. He didn't just like run out with a Snickers or something. Like he went around here and attacked the old guy, boxed him in, no way to escape. He's much stronger, probably has a weapon, like just realistically speaking, when we're talking about store robberies or whatever. In the UK, so many people have gone to prison for defending themselves, but shoving ain't harming their life. First of all, you can kill an old guy by shoving them. Second of all, it's like, it's not about whether or not the single attack that happened is like threatening their life. It's that like this guy probably has a weapon and he's robbing your ass right there, right now, you know? I mean, I don't know. This guy could always like not rob the bodega. It's just, honestly, it seems like a skill issue. Personally, if I don't want to be stabbed to death, I simply don't break into the wagey cagey of the bodega and attack the old guy. Chat, y'all are using the same justifications for cons gunning down people who break into their house. You should. Yes. Good. If someone breaks into your house where you live, where you sleep, if it's 3 a.m. and you hear your door being broken down and you can't even see who's there, you just see a vague silhouette. Absolutely. Oh yeah. Oh, I'm like that guy in Predator. I'm not even aiming. I'm chopping down my back wall with the automatic fire of the illegal gun that I know. All my guns are legal. Absolutely. Vaush, my toaster is worth more than a human life. They're not. People don't break into your house for your toaster. People get murdered in break-ins all the time. You don't have time to like magically deduce their intent and their level of threat. You don't have like a JRPG like analyze system where you get their attack and defense stats along with their equipped items or whatever. There's just a silhouette at the door or at the window, and you don't have VATS. Like if it's maybe they shouldn't have broken in. Castle Doctrine objectively causes more deaths is not good. No, I can't accept that. Correct, you can magically deduce their intent. You're arguing to how? How do you magically deduce the intent of somebody who's breaking into your house? You're arguing to err on the side of just murdering them, lol. Yes! Maybe they shouldn't have broken in to my house. What do you mean? Yes, they're not the victim here. They broke into my house. What do you mean? How do you make sure it's not just your roommate? Oh, no, come on. The majority of people, like, getting hurt because of Castle Doctrine shit, or them not realizing if somebody's breaking in. We're talking about a situation where we know a person is breaking in. We're not, like, abstracting this with, like, the ambiguity. Just sell your house. True. Daniil, do you have opinions on this? I didn't realize you were pro-Castle Doctrine. Yeah, I'm a American. Absolutely. You should read up on that stuff. Yeah, I have. I'm a goddamn American, okay? Make screen big. He's purring in my ear. If the person who broke in is on the ground trying to get away, You mean like they broke in, changed their mind, and then like tried to like dodge roll back out the window they broke in through? I I guess if I saw that, I don't think I'd fire out the window. That's pretty weird of them to do, but I don't have a contingency plan in that specific situation. No, after you struck them after I struck them, you mean after I shot them? Why the fuck would I run up and punch somebody who broke into my house? I have force amplifiers for that. Because people are saying he was on the ground trying to get away. This guy? And like he kept stabbing him after? Here, let's finish the video, I guess. They're probably not going to show... Here, hold on. I have to like... Just in case. Oh, hello, Daniil. Okay. Ow! Oh my god, his nails are so sharp.
Over him. Moments later, a struggle ensues. The two wrestle, and the clerk stabs Simon multiple times.
It's obvious this gentleman was here.
Theft, carry a charge for death sentence. I don't know, dude. Serious crack. We're not... Quit being... We're not talking about theft, okay? Theft is when you get a Kit Kat and then run out. This guy walked into the bodega stand and attacked, unprompted, the guy behind there. A much older and weaker man. Like, this... The fact that you keep, like, minimizing this to threat is really dishonest, and I don't know why you're doing that. It's not just threat. Obviously, I would never say that a shopkeep could, like, start firing out the window because somebody stole a Kit Kat. Like, that's clearly not what we're talking about here. We're talking about threats to people's lives. Yes, but you're arguing for castle doctrine now? Yes, I am! He's purring so loud.
Working, providing for his family, and, someone came behind the counter. And what I viewed was inappropriate.
This happened late Friday night.
Seriously? Inappropriate? Okay.
In the Blue Moon convenience store off West 100.
We can't see? I know.
40th Street. Police were called for an assault in progress, and family clerk was trying to buy. Minutes later, Simon walked in and went behind the counter. Was trying to buy a snack from the deli clerk with her daughter, but her card was declined. Prosecutors say the clerk then took the snack back from the child and they left. Minutes later, Simon walked in and went behind the counter of the store to confront the clerk. Prosecutors claim Simon pushed the clerk and attempted to steer the clerk out of the area behind the counter, but the clerk picked up a kitchen knife that was stashed behind the counter and stabbed the victim multiple times. City Councilman Robert Holden tweeted his support for the suspect, writing, "Career criminals are let right out of jail without bail, while a store clerk..."
Yeah, dog, I don't know, man. If there was a chick with her daughter who couldn't pay for a snack, and then they left, and then a minute later she came back with a guy, and the guy went behind and shoved me to the ground, I would assume this person is insane and I'm about to die. And I'm not even an old guy. Like, that's such an irrational... Like, it's not even like they were having a dispute that escalated, but they, like, kind of seem reasonable. The guy just, like, goes in there and just charges... Yeah, man, I don't know. Whew, you sure are wobbly. Here's the full video. Yeah, yeah, one sec.
Who apparently acted in self-defense, is on Rikers Island.
What I saw on the video was a New Yorker that was doing his job. And that disruption of the job happened because someone was aggressive.
Can you justify continuing to stab him while he's retreating? Okay, I'll look at the video. I can't show it on screen, of course. Don't worry, it's only 56 seconds. You can't see it, because YouTube. But I'll also mute it. Okay, there we go. It's muted. You can't see anything. I'm describing the video, okay? The young guy attacks, pushes him, standing over him. He's looking real mean, real spooky. He's sort of like staring. It looks like he's staring down and yelling and gesturing emphatically at the old guy who's sitting down in his chair. And then he grabs the old guy by the back of the neck and tries to, like, steer him to the other side. And that's when the old guy drew the knife. And, obviously now knife stuff is happening. This video doesn't really show that much more. Yeah, I don't know, man. Probably shouldn't attack old people. Did he retreat? It's not possible to see, unfortunately. The video only shows, like, the moment that both of them tumble to the ground, you can't see anything. If the old man is stabbing afterward, it could be adrenaline work. Fight or flight is a hell of a drug. Yeah, from the perspective of the old guy, like, he basically just, like, fought for his life there. I mean, we've all seen, haven't done it myself, seen movies where people who, like, kill someone freak out and keep stabbing for a while after. I don't know if that necessarily means he's being psychotic. It could just be like a freak out thing, Vaush, how do we get here? Did I miss it, or are we unaware the Manhattan DA dropped the charges? I think that even, like, levying the charges to begin with was insane, to be honest with you. I think that was insane. And not charging the girlfriend if she also tried to stab at the old man? Yeah, I don't know. Knives can be tricky when defending yourself because it's easy for the prosecutor to make you look bad. Yeah, I feel like defending yourself with a knife is always going to make you look like a psychopath, right? Because defending yourself with a gun is you pull the trigger. Maybe a few times. Defending with yourself with a knife is like some ripper psycho shit. So yeah, I feel like I feel like people are you know, it's you're like covered in blood afterward. At least that guy was. So yeah. I'm not anti that DA Rivera. I just think it was a bad call. I'm not at all surprised that people got angry at the DA for that. Using throwing knives would display cool thinking and discipline. You're in a bar fight and somebody lightly taps you and you backflip and throw 3 throwing knives, kunai, directly at his head and he dies. And you're at the trial and you're like, your case is totally illegitimate. Like, you can't get off on self-defense. But the jury's like, I don't know, throwing knives. What? No, only a master of patience and wisdom could possibly, could possibly use such a weapon. Yeah, 3 at once in a fanning motion. In Sweden, an old man was robbed by some boys. He happened to be a former karate champion. Lol, the boys got their asses kicked. Sure, but if one of the boys had a weapon, then that's that, right? Like, you can be as physically proficient as you want, but if somebody has a weapon, like, that's that. It's they're weapons. The point is that they're weapons. So just kill the boys. If the old man, if you're an old man and you get jumped by a bunch of young guys, that's a threat to your life. You know that, right? Like, you can kill people with your hands. If you're like a 65-year-old guy and like a bunch of young guys jump you, like, that is absolutely a threat to your life. I mean, that's a threat to your life even if you're young. Being ganged up on by a group of people in a lot of jurisdictions is considered like potentially lethal threat, So please value your own life more. Yeah, people could simply just not jump old people. I've been jumped and somebody tried to kick me in the head. That shit is scary. Yeah, no shit. Yeah, it's terrifying. You can die. People can die from that. That could be it. I've never heard your thoughts before on whether Kyle Rittenhouse was justified. I've talked about it before in plenty of video, not plenty, but at least a few videos. I think that, oh my God, buddy, you're not well balanced enough for this. Come on. Well, okay. All right. Why? Okay. What are we, to what end? To what end? Okay, he's fine. He's on the desk. He's not normally up here. I hope he's having fun. Vaush is pro Kyle Rittenhouse, pro AR-15, pro nukes for home defense. True. All true. Completely true. I guess, I don't know. I guess I just don't have very much sympathy for people who just, like, randomly attack people. I have a ton of sympathy for people who do, like, petty theft. There are a lot of crimes that I really just don't give much of a shit about, right? I mean, obviously, it's not good that they happen, but I just don't, like, I don't think you should ruin people's lives over them if they get caught. But then there's some, some shit, like, man, some people just suck. Jesus, Merrick. Almost lost a job for defending myself against a customer who sucker punched me. Jesus. Yeah, they don't like that PR stuff. That's right, Mr. Irwin. Hard on crime Vaush. It should. Oh, there it is. I knew he broke my skin somewhere because his nails are so sharp, man. Do you think most cases are people randomly attacking people? Do you not agree a lot of desperate violent crimes are done by desperate people? Desperate people doing desperate violent crimes doesn't mean they're not just randomly attacking people. If you're desperate and that leads you to randomly attacking somebody, like, that's still, like, that's, you're desperate. The socioeconomic circumstances that have led you to this point are only an excuse up to a point. There are limits to that. It's not a matter of whether or not people are schizos. It's just a lot of people are assholes and don't care very much about other people. Also, most violent crimes are done by men, and a lot of men have anger issues. Like, a lot of men have no ability to control their emotions. They're like children. And, like, yeah, Like, do you see, like, the guy who fucking shoved an old man to the ground because he was upset his girlfriend didn't have the money to buy a snack for her daughter? Do you think that was like he was acting out of desperation, and that was like desperation was leading him to that? Like, if it was desperation, don't you think he would have gone up and, I don't know, like pleaded or asked like really nicely, or gone like, excuse me, sir, I'm really sorry, but if we, like, literally anything like that? No. Instead, he goes into the wagey cagey and attacks the old guy. Why? Because it's a pride thing. Because his girl just came to him and said, hey, that bodega guy didn't give me the snack because we couldn't pay. And he's like, oh, I'll show him, and goes over there. It's a man thing. It's man behavior. It's sick. It's pathetic. So so like, now, do socioeconomic circumstances factor into this? Absolutely. Because it was, after all, the fact that they had no money that led that guy into a position of wounded pride. But that doesn't mean the behavior was some kind of, like, noble cause or whatever. It was still bad. He could have just walked out with the chips. Yeah, if you wanted to commit a crime, why not just steal the chips? Like, it's not like, if he wants the chips, he could just grab the chips and leave. Assaulting the guy doesn't, like, that doesn't fix anything apart from a pride attack or whatever. Vaush, maybe not, but that's something to find out. Just deciding whatever he attacks something, he deserves to die. It's not whether he deserves to die. It's that if you're being attacked and there's a reasonable threat against your life, you have a right to use tools to defend yourself, including lethal weapons, because those attacks against you could be lethal. You don't get to wait until after lethal force has been applied to you to use lethal force. After lethal force has been applied to you, you're dead. The only way out of there is to apply force before they apply lethal force. And I mean, in that case, like, that guy could have ineptly swung with his fists and done not very much at all, or he could have, like, swung with a knife. Okay, but a break-in is not necessarily lethal force. You can't tell when it happens, though. You don't know when it happens. You don't know. You don't... When a break-in happens, you don't get to, like, talk to the person who's doing it. Look, the only thing I'll say to round this out is that, obviously, I think, if you can reasonably avoid the application of lethal force in a situation where you might otherwise, you should. If somebody breaks in, and, like, the lights are on, and they're an idiot, so they stumble over your window frame and sort of, like, fumble in and kind of, like, knock their head a bit, and they're going, ooh, and, like, they look up, and you're pointing a Glock at them already, I don't think you should just fire, okay? If you have them dead to rights, if you have them, like... I don't understand why so many chatters don't get that if someone is enacting unjust violence against you or trying to invade your home, their life is forfeit. Not necessarily. Like, I don't... If somebody, like, pushes you, like, on the street or, like, hits you at a bar, I don't think that means you get to kill them or whatever. The problem is there a reasonable threat to your life that, like, you can see in this situation? And if there's, like, a huge group of them compared to you, that can be one where you could be justified in shooting even if they have no weapons. Because, like, 5 guys beating the shit out of you can absolutely kill you. If you're really old or weak or disabled and they, like, somebody else attacks you with their fists, they can still kill you, you know? I mean, obviously, a fist fight could kill anyone, theoretically. Like, bad luck or a good hit will be the end of anyone. But it's about risk assessment, yeah. Well, the perception of risk assessment. So what if a child busted into your home? Like a 10-year-old? If I like went downstairs and saw there was a 10-year-old like eating a bunch of chocolate in a glass bowl on my coffee table in the living room, I probably wouldn't, like, on site, yeah, I probably wouldn't immediately unload. But if, like, do you mean like it really depends on the circumstances here. It's like somebody breaks in and I just see, like, movement and, like, footsteps or something, and I draw and I fire, and then it turns out they were a kid. Well, that sucks for that kid, but damn, it sucks. Sorry, you could have been anyone. I don't know. But if it turns out they're a kid, and, like, I can see some kind of evidence they don't pose a threat to me, or if I get the drop on them, and I can be like, hey, like, lay down with your hands up or something. I don't. Then, like, yeah, ideally, like, no one dies. The problem is, like, these aren't ideal circumstances. That is an insane take. What? An insane take that if you hear somebody break into your house and you, like, go downstairs, you hear, like, footsteps, like, stomping down, like, broken glass, and then, like, you like draw and fire. That's insane. Yes, very American take. Haven't we talked about this before in the context of police no-knock raids? Where, like, it's wild that police will do no-knock raids because if people don't announce their presence, then burst down the door, like, Americans literally have a legal right to start firing. And when I say that, people in chat are like, yeah, that's unjustified, yeah. So, like, random people are not cops. You don't know they're cops when they break in. That's the point of the no-knock raid. That's why it's bad. If they announce they're cops, then you can go like, ah, well, I'm constantly dual-wielding Glocks, but I guess I'll set these down now. But if they don't announce that, you're still holding the Glocks when they come in. Child-sized cops? What are you even talking about? I think people are just saying you have to yell at them, you're going to shoot them before you shoot. It would always be nice if in a situation where there is an ambiguous threat to your life from a home invader, you could fully identify them and figure out the situation before taking any action. That's obviously not always possible. If it is possible, like examples where it is possible would be you get the drop on them and they're fully lit. That is a situation where I think you could exercise a reasonable, like, you know, non-lethal strategy. Well, of like, hey, you can, if you catch them and you've got a gun drawn, you can be like, all right, there's a gun pointed at you. You drop your gun or whatever and get down on the ground, and we all get to live today. And you can do that. I think that'd be better than like executing them, obviously. But I'm talking about the snap decisions you have to make in the heat of a moment. And I'm okay with setting a standard that like if a person breaks into your house in the middle of the night, they know people are going to be there. There's already an expectation that they're going to confront people. It's reasonable to assume they might have a weapon. Yeah, DM, I agree. Like, yeah, what DM is saying, it's like, I'm not saying you shouldn't exercise caution or be careful. You should. You should be cautious. You should be careful. Life is precious. But at the same time, it comes across to me as like really naive that you could navigate all these situations without a reasonable threat to your life. Let's not talk about a break-in, and let's talk about a situation where you're being attacked, okay? Let's say because somebody talked you into it, you have a concealed carry weapon, okay? You have like a 38 special revolver in like your purse or what, I don't know, okay? And you're like a little girl or something because you're small and weak. And I'm a big guy. And I show up and I'm like, hey, you know what time it is? Fist time! And I start wailing on you. And like, it really hurts, but also I could kill you because my fists are big and I'm strong and you're small. And every time I hit you, there's a chance you go flying backwards and crack your skull open on the brick wall behind you. Under those circumstances, there's literally no chance of you winning in a hand fight against me. Do you just like what? Do you're just like, well, it's been good. My time on Earth has been good. I'm just going to allow this murderer to take my place. Moving forward, I've walked as far as I can. It's up to you now. Like your hands out, like go forth. No, like you would draw on them and you'd shoot them rightfully and kill them if the bullets went the right places. And I think that's a fair exercise of your right to defend yourself. The one good critique to be made of the castle doctrine is that many a time a gun owner has shot their spouse or child by mistake because they got up in the middle of the night. Okay, but that's not the castle doctrine as like a legal institution. That's paranoid dipshits. Like, the castle doctrine doesn't mean you can legally shoot anyone who makes a creaking noise in your house. Like that, like the castle doctrine is if a person breaks in. Now you can fairly say like, okay, well, a lot of people are bad at telling whether somebody is broken in. And that's a correct argument. This is why having guns in the house objectively increases the likelihood of you dying by gunfire, because people, you know, they hear a creak in the night and they run down with their 12 gauge and they paint their kid over the wall or something. And I fully agree that that is dangerous and that is harmful. But in this case, we're not talking about the castle doctrine. We're talking about people acting improperly with the castle doctrine as a pretext for their paranoia. I'm talking about situations where someone is breaking in, and situations where you know that it's not like someone who could be in the house, you know? Like if you live alone or your family's sleeping upstairs, you know, I'm not recommending you hear like a creak downstairs and you run down, but if you hear like furious kick down the door, boots stomping, I mean, I don't think that's a normal thing to hear if you're in like a quiet suburban house, like downstairs, your whole family's sleeping upstairs. Like, oh yeah, it's my Uncle Eddie. My Uncle Eddie, who came to my house once 18 years ago and is back. And he's such a wacky prankster with his door kicking. You know, like, well, Uncle Eddie. He's gone. His ass is grass. That is true, Annie. I'm not talking about something that happens frequently. Keep in mind that originally this discussion was about self-defense in the context of being assaulted, in which case all this ambiguity disappears. If you're being assaulted, like the bodega clerk, if you're being assaulted, like, okay, you know, you're like some guy walks in the bodega and starts decking you, and it's like, well, could they be my younger sister? No, they're the guy decking you. Yeah. So at that point, it's a matter of, do I have the right to use lethal force? And that question can be answered with yes. No. It's complicated, but I do think, you know, obviously legally this varies state by state. I'm not making any legal advice, but morally speaking, I think that a lot of stuff potentially constitutes a threat to your life, and I think it's fair to respond in kind. 3 of your siblings in a trench coat? True. According to Washington state law, the Castle Doctrine states you have no duty to retreat in your own home and may use deadly force against an intruder when the actor reasonably fears imminent peril of death or serious bodily harm to him or herself or another. Yeah, I think that's totally fair. Can you imagine an intruder breaking in and you having a reasonable fear of imminent death or serious bodily harm, and then you shoot, and they were that. They were an intruder. They did have a gun. They were going in there. They might have killed you, and then getting charged with murder? Because that's what the Castle Doctrine protects you from. So how do you suppose we ideally reduce the frequency of these cases while keeping a Castle Doctrine? I think it's gun culture. I don't think it's just people owning guns. I think it's like insane lunatic suburban paranoia where people like own a bunch of guns and like they're doing this neighborhood watch bullshit where they peer past the windows and are like getting nervous when a black guy walks around outside, and then they hear creaking downstairs. They're thinking like, oh, this is finally time, because they've been thinking about it every day of their life, you know? The problem, I think, is gun culture. And I don't want to like, I don't want to like, I don't want to make claims that might be proven false later because I have no data to back this up. I don't know, but I'd be willing to bet you could, at least in a lot of cases, reliably track political identity based on the kinds of people who do those mistaken in-house shootings. I'd be willing to bet a lot of it has to do with paranoia, and that kind of paranoia about crime and break-ins heavily tracks to Republicans. And I think it's a gun culture thing. Probably, it's not one-to-one, but I think it's a big part of it. Communal living and knowing your neighbors definitely helps here, Bungles. Yeah. Do you think it should be normalized to wound instead of to kill? Obviously complex. Just shooting to wound just isn't like really a thing in self-defense situations. Like that's not like, it's like how warning shots aren't a thing in like conventional like it's something you hear about in the movies, like fire a warning shot, but there is no warning shot. Drawing the gun is the warning shot. Like, you know, it like, for instance, did you know legally brandishing a firearm is only justifiable in situations where you'd be authorized to use that firearm? So to put it another way, you can't brandish a gun unless there is a reasonable threat to your life. The same way that would like give you the justification to use the firearm. There's not a middle stage, if I understand correctly. So if you're legally allowed to draw, you're legally allowed to kill. So a lot of the like shoot to wound warning shot stuff, it's not really like a thing. It's as soon as you have pretext to draw the firearm, legally, like their life is in your hands. I guess if you had the choice to shoot to wound, like if that was a thing you could, like if somehow that was a choice open to you. I mean, it's better that people not die, of course, but it's just not much of a standard like practice, I think. I have to precognition. Do not we all? Wouldn't shoot to wound count as attempted murder? Shooting to wound and shooting to kill are the same thing. If you shoot somebody, like you'll be charged for shooting them. Like that, it's or like it. There's no situation where you could go like, you know, the defendant fired, like shot at somebody. It's like, oh, well, I shot in the leg rather than the chest. That's not like a mitigating thing, I guess. What's the best option, assuming equal risk? Running and leaving your possessions in house with intruders or killing every intruder? Man, I don't want to sound like bad or whatever, but dude, if people break into your house and threaten your life, them. Like, I'm a pretty socially minded person too. Like, I want people to get along. I want people to get to know their neighbors, to care, to trust. But like, damn, dude, that's like the one place on earth where you should have a reasonable expectation that you're not going to be with. Like, in my mind, I think it's okay for the walls of a house to be the magical line that if you cross unjustifiably, like you break in, you're saying like, okay, whatever I'm about to do in this house, I'm doing it with my life on the line. Like, if you're breaking into a house, if you break through a window or a door or whatever, like, okay, we're doing this, and my life is the collateral. But I don't want them to die. It's just like man, you. What about people who break in and don't threaten your life? Well, then I'm chasing them with a baseball bat. I mean, if they're like, "Hi, I'm here to break in and steal your stuff, sir. I will also not enact any violence on you." That's great. I will. Get good luck. Hey, what? Want to see how quickly you can run circles around a house floor plan that I'm familiar with and you're not? Let's go. Woo! And like, all right, we'll Benny Hill this shit. Fuck. Shouldn't have broken into my house, you idiot. Can you just say the castle doctrine is flawed? So okay, the castle doctrine is flawed. What about this case? This case, the castle doctrine was used to... Yeah, that's true. Being super against self-defense on break-ins, and when I have for months been saying that people should own firearms in case there's a far-right uprising and they start, like, running around the city shooting through windows at people, like, I feel like now's not the time to suddenly get really, like, pacifist on the idea of, you know, a radical investment in your own safety and autonomy. I feel like now's a good time to be kind of guarded with that. You're just wrong on this. It's a thing in a ton of countries, just not in the US. Yeah, because other countries haven't invented weapons yet. If somebody breaks into your house in England and they have a knife. If somebody breaks into your house in, like, I don't know, France, they have like a stale baguette. Like, you know, here in America, the things are a lot more dangerous. You're unironically correct, though, that the fact that America is the way it is contributes to my standard for, or my defense of the castle doctrine is because guns are so common in America. After all, if we were in a country where there was no guns, I would probably be a lot more laissez-faire when it came to this stuff, because guns are magic wands that can kill you instantly from basically any distance with no time or like defense or lead up. A gun is like the magic win argument button in like every situation. Whereas if there was no gun and somebody like broke in, at least you know they probably couldn't, unless they broke in with like a crossbow. You know, if somebody breaks into your house circa like 1612 or what, I guess they had guns then, you know, 1612, and they break into your thatched hut house, at least you know they can't hurt you until they're next to you. Like if they have a knife, and they probably do, they have to be next to you to hurt you, right? I mean, that gives you some time to assist. So they break in on the other side of the one room in my house, and I'm on this side, and I have my woodsman's axe, and then, you know, they get up, and I'm like, oi you, state your name and purpose, oi, and like now they can't magically kill me from 20 feet away. They actually have to get close to me to kill me. And if I say that and they charge, then I can be like, all right, we're doing this thing, let's go. And we can like properly have it, and then I can exercise, you know, with lethal force, my right to self-defense. But it is true that the, you know, near omnipresence of firearms in the United States does change the math on this a little bit. Don't act like that isn't a better system. Yeah, we just happen to have a lot of guns. What about this case? Well, we haven't even read this case. 2 months into a stay in the U.S., Hattori and his homestay brother, Webb Haymaker, receive an invitation to a Halloween party organized for Japanese exchange students. Hattori dressed in a white tuxedo. The party was being held. The two youths mistook the residence of Rodney Pierce, a 30-year-old supermarket butcher, and his wife Bonnie Pierce for their intended destination due to the similarity of the address and the Halloween decorations on the outside of the house. Hattori and Haymaker walked to the house's front door and rang the doorbell. Nobody came to the front door, but Bonnie Pierce opened the side door leading to the carport and saw Haymaker standing a few yards away. Haymaker was wearing a neck brace due to a recent injury and bandages as part of a Halloween costume. He attempted to address Bonnie Pierce, but she later testified she panicked when Hattori appeared from around the corner and moved briskly towards her. She slammed the door and told her husband Rodney to get his gun. Okay, this is exactly what I mean. You know these people voted for Reagan, okay? This is exactly what the fuck I mean, okay? So first of all, at this point, they're getting their gun and they haven't they just rang the doorbell. So this is the poison, okay? But this is what they look like. 100% voted for Ronnie. Ugh. Yeah, of course. Literally, they saw two ethnics on their doorstep and she ran back. Get the gun. Like, what mind state do you have to be in to say get the gun because two people rang your door? Literally think for a moment. This is mental illness. It is. It's mental illness. This is most gun owners, though. Well, most people are gun owners in the United States, Annie. So outside, Haymaker inferred that he and Hattori came to the wrong house. They were preparing to return to their car when Rodney Pierce opened the carport door, armed with a .44 Magnum. Hattori stepped back towards Pierce, saying, "We're here for the party." Pierce pointed the gun at him and yelled, "Freeze." Haymaker caught sight of the firearm and shouted a warning after Hattori, but Hattori had limited English and was not wearing his contact lens that evening. It was possible he did not understand Pierce's command to freeze and did not see the weapon, or might have even thought this was part of a Halloween prank. Hattori was also holding a camera which Pierce mistook for a weapon. When Hattori... A 1990s camera? 1992? What gun-shaped camera? Hold on. 1992 handheld camera. What kind of weapon? I'm just pondering for a second what kind of futuristic weapon he thought these Japanese had brought to his friend. Like maybe that's why the woman ran back. Get the .44 Magnum. He's got a Japanese laser ray. Okay. Yeah. Halo battle rifle. I have no idea. He's got nunchucks. And then he fired at him. Okay. Are we really asking if I would support this? Running to get the gun because two guys rang the doorbell and then they're like, okay, walked away. And then you burst out of the door with your revolver and you're like, hey, put your hands up. And a Japanese guy is like, okay. And then you shoot him in the chest. Like, this is clearly not what I'm defending here. That's the point. Okay, but I'm not arguing in defense of this. I'm very clearly arguing in favor of defending yourself against somebody who has broken into your house. Like, what? Okay, I said that the castle doctrine was flawed. Okay, what I'm defending the fact that you can legally use lethal force against people breaking into your house when there's a clear and apparent threat of danger to your livelihood and stuff. I'm not defending this. He would say Nani. Yeah, that was what was funny to me. I thought of saying Nani, and then I thought I could be funnier, and then I said K. Self-defense doesn't equal castle doctrine. Okay, guys, can we be charitable? The literal only things that I've been defending under the purview of the castle doctrine here are are not this stuff, and it is the castle doctrine that legally protects us under those circumstances. That doesn't mean that I'm defending every single thing that's ever been justified under the castle doctrine. Like I said it's flawed. I acknowledge that it's flawed. But if somebody in chat was like, "Hey, what about like shooting somebody who rings your doorbell?" That like legally the castle doctrine can like ropes over to include that. Then I'd be like, "Well, obviously that's retarded," you know? You defended it in cases where you have an option to just escape. Where? The point of the castle doctrine is that you don't have to escape your house. It's my house. Home intruders aren't a bee. I'm not going to see a bee in a room and go like, I'm leaving. I'm going to another room. Good luck. I certainly think the castle, whatever interpretation of the castle doctrine led to this. Like, guys, laws that do a lot of good have been interpreted for like really shitty things all the time. Like, think of all of the legitimate laws we have that have been twisted by DAs to, like, bring illegitimate charges against black people. But if I'm like, yeah, you know, I think that it's probably a good idea that murder is illegal, and you're like, okay, well, what about these 6 times that the prosecutors have brought murder charges for illegitimate reasons and used this, then I wouldn't be defending that. I'm defending the principle. It's because you said earlier you support it in its entirety. I support the okay, hold on. I support the concept that was laid out by Demon Mama when reading Washington Castle Doctrine law, but that doesn't mean that it's not going to be, like, misused. I would argue against the misuse. A legal doctrine that designates a person's abode or any legally occupied place, such as a vehicle or home, as a place in which the person has protections and immunities permitting them in some circumstances to use force to defend against an intruder free of legal liability. This can include deadly force. The term is commonly used throughout the U.S. to describe a no duty to retreat from a home, abode, or car. But none of this has anything to do with blasting people on your lawn. First of all, they're not in your castle. And second of all, they didn't pose any reasonable threat of harm. They just rang the doorbell. A person has a duty to retreat. If a person has a duty to retreat to avoid violence, they must do so. But the Castle Doctrine negates that duty to retreat when the individual is assaulted in a place where he or she has a right to be, such as within one's home. But that doesn't include your lawn. At least if that's the case, I've never heard that interpretation. Like somebody's on your lawn so you can fire at them from the window. Your lawn is part of your castle, as them entering itself can be seen as a threat. Then I'm not defending that. Legally occupied place equals the entire property. I've heard different interpretations of this. Depends on the state. Okay. Then don't defend Castle Doctrine if you don't agree. Thana, I really feel like you're being annoying about this. Like, unironically. It's so, like, it's very obvious what I've been saying this entire time. And I feel like you know me well enough to be fully aware of the fact that I never would have defended this. Or, like, I never would defend the idea of, like, blasting people on your lawn. Because that clearly doesn't meet, like, reasonable interpretations of this. I am being annoying. I just disagree. I respect your nuance. Okay, that seems fair. This guy was shot after he pushed a man to the ground. Wait, hold on. This is Florida. This wouldn't be Castle Doctrine. This would be Stand Your Ground. I don't agree with the Stand Your Ground. They are the same lol. No, they're not. What was that guy who got off recently in Florida because he, like, started blind firing out of his car and then he got off in it because it was considered Stand Your Ground? Florida Stand Your Ground car gun. This is, okay, if you guys want to see an actual example of an insane law. Hold on, where is it? Can somebody find it? Please find that clip. I would do anything to find that clip. Please, 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 please. Castle Doctrine is Stand Your Ground. It's just stand your ground in your property. Yeah, which makes it not Stand Your Ground. Stand Your Ground is everywhere, which is bad. McLaughlin was fatally shot by Michael at a parking lot outside a local convenience store. Vishka approached McLaughlin's car and began to confront McLaughlin's girlfriend for parking at a disabled parking space. Wait! Wasn't this the subject of one of those videos? Yeah, this was the subject of one of those videos. JCS. Yeah. So this guy got charged because he was a f***ing psycho, basically. So basically, Guy A, who is of course a young black man, and Guy B, an older white man who made several racially suspect comments over the course of the investigation, if I remember correctly. The young black man shoved the older white guy to the ground, and then the older white guy backed away, and 5 seconds afterwards shot the black man. So basically, the black guy shoved the white guy hit the ground, backed up for 5 seconds, and then fired. And not like being attacked by the black guy, just like the black guy was just standing there. The video of the shooting itself is only 3 minutes. Yeah. The black guy even had his hands up when he was shot. The white guy got convicted for this. So in my opinion, I would consider this to be like a rare case of a stand your ground like defense, not like not getting off a person who definitely wanted to be given leeway for that. He was acquitted though? No. He was convicted. He pled not guilty. His trial began, convicted of manslaughter, and sentenced to imprisonment for 20 years. That's a hefty conviction for manslaughter. That's on the upper end, isn't it? I don't know Florida's, like, range. Okay. I love you all very much. No negativerino. No negativeroni.